Hi, I'm Sarah Clare with the Rediscovery Centre, and today I'm doing this virtual video workshop for you on Introduction to Sustainability. This workshop is part of the Going Green with the Library initiative with Westmeath Libraries, and it's very kindly funded by the Dormant Accounts. So if you'd like any more information on the Rediscovery Centre workshops or on this video, please contact us using these details. Thank you. So just a little outline of what we're going to be covering in this workshop today. I'm going to talk first of all and give you an introduction on the Rediscovery Centre. Then I'm going to introduce you to the concept of sustainability. So what is sustainability? Then we're going to examine the Sustainable Development Goals. We're going to look at natural resources and natural resource use. Then we're going to talk about the different models for the economy, the circular versus the linear economy. Then we're really going to have an exploration of sustainable living. So what are the principles of sustainable living? Examine it in more detail using textiles and food as an example to demonstrate sustainable living. And then I'll demonstrate some of the hands-on activities that you can do as part of this video workshop. So the Rediscovery Centre is based in Ballymun in North Dublin. We're the National Centre for the Circular Economy. And what we do here is we encourage people, we demonstrate and we do research all about sustainability and moving our society to low carbon living. So that's what it's all about, trying to get people engaged, get people interested, and get people to really put these principles into practice in their own lives as well. So some of the things we do at the Rediscovery Centre are we take unwanted materials, so what other people view as waste, we divert it from landfill, and we reuse, redesign, and repurpose different items to demonstrate how it can be done. We do a lot of education and workshops for all ages, from primary to secondary like yourselves, and also adults as well, all about different aspects of sustainability and the circular economy. We provide community employment and training as well, so we've got a big programme for that. The ethos and what the Rediscovery Centre is all about inspiring sustainable living. So at the Rediscovery Centre, we have a number of social enterprises where we take unwanted materials, we redesign them, repurpose them, reuse them, working with a team of creative experts, trainees, and the public as well, all about reusing, redesigning these things. So we do rediscover furniture, where we take unwanted items of furniture, such as chairs, tables, things like that, and we totally take them apart, redesign them, reuse them. One of the projects we've previously worked on was working with unwanted and broken wardrobes and making those into guitars. That was a very exciting project we worked on. We also do rediscover fashion, where we take unwanted textiles and redesign, repurpose them. So we've done a lot of projects as well with different organisations where they give us unwanted materials, such as this. When we were working with IKEA, they donated a lot of broken and ripped yellow shopping bags from their store, and instead of those ending up in landfill, we redesigned them and made them into raincoats. So again, it's just kind of demonstrating the whole idea about viewing unwanted materials as actually a resource that we can use. We also get paint from recycling centres. Normally this would be shipped to Germany and incinerated, which has massive environmental impacts and also causes financial issues as well, because it costs money to ship those to Germany and dispose of them in a more responsible way, but it's really not a great option to be incinerating them. So we're the only place in Ireland that actually gets water-based paint, and we strain it, clean it, and then we mix it up to different colours, and then it's actually being reused and it's for sale in our eco store for €1 a litre instead of the usual cost of 15 to 20 euros a litre. So again, it's all about that reuse idea. We do a lot of research into the circular economy and also sustainability in general and environmental issues, and we have a really big education program where we work with a lot of primary and secondary schools and also adult education, providing lots of different services in terms of education for sustainability. We also do workshops on science, technology, engineering and maths as well. So now just to talk a little bit about what sustainability is. So if you want to, in your pod groups, just have a little chat about what you think sustainability is, what kind of factors are important when it comes to sustainability, and what does sustainability mean. So you can pause the video here and have a discussion about what you think sustainability is. So when we're talking about sustainability, what we actually mean is sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Now that is a really, really important concept. It's all about thinking for the future. So the way that we're using resources, the way that we're causing waste and pollution issues, what is that going to be like for future generations? So your children and your children's children and so on into the future. If we're causing a lot of impacts in terms of water pollution, what effects is that going to have on future generations? So that's what we need to be thinking about. We can't just think short term about this year, next year, or even 10 years. We need to be thinking longer term. That's what sustainability is really all about. We want to ensure quality of life for future generations, which is incredibly important, and also for you guys in the future as well. What's the world that you're inheriting like, and how are the things that you're doing in your daily lives affecting things in your future? So there are 3 pillars of sustainability, 3 aspects that form sustainability. In order for something to be sustainable, it needs to be economically sustainable, so thinking about the finances, thinking about the economy, thinking about fairness and equality. It needs to be socially sustainable as well, so thinking about communities, all the people around us, how is it impacting people all around the world, and it needs to be environmentally sustainable as well. So these are what we call the 3 pillars of sustainability. And the only way we can have real sustainability is by thinking of these 3 factors when it comes to sustainability as well. So when we're talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, when we're looking at sustainable living, we always need to bear in mind these 3 pillars of sustainability. It's called the triple bottom line. So you might have heard the phrase before, the bottom line, and oftentimes that comes down to money, but that is not what is going to lead to a good and fair and equal future for everybody. So it needs to be the triple bottom line: economic, social and environmental as well. So to this end, all the countries around the world under the United Nations came together to discuss how this was going to be achieved worldwide. So, and they came up with these Sustainable Development Goals. These are 17 goals that are incredibly important, and these are the key and the roadmap for creating a sustainable future as well. So no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being for all, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry and innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice and strong institutions, and partnerships for the goals. So these Sustainable Development Goals are not just at an international level or even a countrywide level. all of us should be looking at these sustainable development goals, and anything that we're doing in terms of our future should actually be looking at these principles. So now if you'd like to pause the video in a moment, and if you'd like to, in your groups, have a chat through these sustainable development goals, which ones do you think are most important? How do the goals you think are most important, how do they link in with the other goals? Is it possible to totally focus on just one goal? Will that be able to create a sustainable future, or are they all linked? So you can pause the video here. So hopefully, as you guys were discussing these, you might have seen different points of view and from lots of different sides. What did you think was important when it came to the Sustainable Development Goals? Now, if you'd like to have a chat about how you could make a more sustainable community within your school, which ones of these would be some of the main issues or the main things that you'd like to address within your school to create a more sustainable community within your school? Would it be something like climate action? Would you feel that that's important? What other of the sustainable development goals could you bring into that to create a more sustainable community? So your teacher has some resources as well about dividing up the class into teams and examining in detail some of these sustainable development goals, and having a look to see what actions you can take for those sustainable development goals that you can put into place in your daily lives, within your classroom, or even within your school community. So during this workshop, we're really going to put a focus on Goal 12, responsible consumption and production. So this is something that we can all achieve in our daily lives. We are constantly buying things, we are constantly using different things as well, and we all have a responsibility for our actions and about how our actions are impacting the world now and for the future as well. So things like the amount of energy that we're using. If we're irresponsibly using energy, we're actually contributing to climate change. If we are buying shopping with lots of packaging, all of that packaging is being thrown out, going to landfill, which is going to have an impact now and on future generations as well. So when we're talking about products and things that we use in our daily lives, they have to come from somewhere. So everything that we use comes from natural resources. It's made using different natural resources. So natural resources are things like raw materials, so minerals, rocks, metals, plants, animals. It's also environmental media such as the air, water and soil. Energy resources such as wind, geothermal, tides and the sun, or fossil fuels depending on what we're using. And it's also the space or the land area that's used to make the products that we need. So if we're talking about something as simple as making a cup of tea, the natural resources that are used in that are the tea plants that need to be grown, but also we need to think about the space and the land area that's actually being used for that. How are they being harvested? How are they being produced into tea? What are the tea bags made of? What are the natural resources involved in that? The air quality, the soil that the plants were grown in. So all of these kind of things are all linking in together. And these are all the natural resources in just one activity like tea bags. So what I've sent your teacher on an activity called natural resource use. And what you need to do is list out all the different natural resources you have used so far today. So if you read a newspaper this morning, what are all the natural resources that were used to make that? So it's everything including the ink, the glue that was made to use to make the paper. It is all the transportation of all the natural materials to the factory, of the newspaper to the shop, and how did you get that as well? So it's wood, water, energy, soil to grow the trees, minerals, plant oils, petroleum for printing inks, all of those different things. So if you'd like to start off listing one activity at a time and think about all the different natural resources that we use to make those, work together as a team and see how many natural resources you have used so far today, and you'll be quite surprised by that. So the purpose of looking at our natural resource look is so that we can really examine what's our ecological footprint. That is, how fast we consume resources and generate waste. So it includes everything from our carbon footprint, the amount of energy we're using and the type of energy that we're using. It's also the built up land, so what area is being used, the factories that are producing the materials that we're using. It's forestry, it's food and fibre, it's seafood. So all of these different things are all the natural resources that we're using, but it's also the waste and pollution that we're creating as a result of those activities as well. So that's what we call our ecological footprint. So there's some really good resources online where you can actually examine your ecological footprint in detail. Oftentimes we really focus on our carbon footprint, but that's only a small part of what our ecological footprint is. It's very good to examine, but it's good to examine it as a whole, as our ecological footprint as well. The earth can only provide us with a certain amount of resources every single year. This is the amount of resources, natural resources, that it can actually create. Now, as humans, we are using so many natural resources every year that it's actually taking the earth longer than a year to be able to create those. So as the human population, the amount of resources that we're using is well exceeding what the earth can provide. Now, Earth Overshoot Day is the date in the year that human beings have used up a year's worth of resources. So in 2019, Earth Overshoot Day was the 29th of July. So we are using nearly 2 Earth's worth of resources in a single year as a human population. Now, this is not equally distributed around the world. Some countries we're actually using a lot more resources than other countries as well. In Ireland, the amount of resources our allocation of resources is being used up by the end of April. So we are using way more than the earth can actually provide, and this is definitely not sustainable. This is not the way forward to a sustainable future. So when we're looking at ecological overshoot, so now we're looking at nearly 1.7 worth of Earth's resources in a single year. If we continue on the way we're going with population growth, by the year 2050, we'll be using nearly 3 years of Earth's resources in a single year. This is totally unsustainable, and this is what we need to change. We need to change urgently, and we need to change now, so that we are using less resources and that we're only using a year's worth of resources in a year instead of in a much shorter time frame. So now I'm going to ask you to do a group discussion. This is David Attenborough, who is one of my absolute heroes and a real advocate for the environment and for biodiversity and for a sustainable future as well. So what he said was, we have a finite environment, the planet. Anyone thinks you can have infinite growth in a finite environment is either a madman or an economist. So in groups, if you want to discuss if you think this statement is true or not, and why you think it is. Do you agree with this? Don't you agree? What do you think? So when we're talking about the economy as a whole, what we do now is we've got what's called a linear economy. This is where we take natural resources, we produce them, make them into stuff, we consume them, and then we waste them. So it's a constant stream of resources going through and going to waste. And sometimes this can actually be as short as a couple of weeks. And for things like food as well, in terms of resources that we're using, made into stuff, consumed, and then thrown away as waste. So this is happening all the time. We're taking resources and they're just causing environmental problems at the end as well as waste. What we need to move to is what's called a circular economy. This is where we take natural resources, we design them with sustainability in mind, we make them into stuff using as little resources, causing as little pollution and climate greenhouse gases and climate impact as we can. We distribute them, consume them, use them, repair them, reuse them, collect them for recycling, recycle them, and then that process can start again. So instead of constantly taking resources that are just going to landfill, going to waste, causing environmental issues, all the resources that we're using are kept in the economy for much, much, much longer. So things like a glass bottle can actually be recycled for 1 million years before the glass is too decomposed or too low quality to actually use. So that glass bottle can keep being recycled and keep being designed and made into new things. So this is what we're really looking at for a sustainable future. We need to have this circular economy idea. So now we're going to talk a little bit about sustainable living. So what is sustainable living? What do you think it is? So a really nice way to kind of focus as a group is to create your own word cloud. So you can get some free apps such as Poll Everywhere. You can sign up for a free account, and using that you can create your own word cloud for what you need to think about when it comes to sustainable living. So the principles of sustainable living are sustainable use of water, minimising waste and aiming for zero waste, limiting our use of natural resources, protecting wildlife and the environment, using sustainable products and materials that are not going to cause environmental issues, supporting local and organic food and thinking about food miles, how far away has the product come from, what impacts is that going to have, energy efficiency, both in production and also in our use of it. Respect for others, individuals' differences and cultures is a really important part of sustainable living as well. Sustainable transport, our own good health and well-being, and equitable human rights as well is another incredibly important part of sustainable living. And again, it comes down to those 3 pillars of sustainable living: the economic, environmental, and social as well. So here's some nice examples of sustainable living. So when you're going shopping for food, instead of buying fruit like apples in soft plastic packaging that is non-recyclable and ends up in landfill, you can buy loose apples and bring your own reusable bags as well that you can actually bring into store. There's a lot of shops around the country now that are doing zero waste shopping. So you bring your own containers, you could fill them up with things like rice and pasta. So it's a really, really good thing to think about. Where can you do that in your local area as well? When it comes to our clothing, thinking about organics, making sure that materials come from natural or sustainable sources. When we're buying things like coffee, bananas, chocolate, looking for the fair trade mark and making sure that the workers who are actually producing, the farmers who are producing the products, are actually getting fair and equitable working conditions and wages as well. So we're going to look now at sustainable textiles as an example of sustainable living. So we've all heard the term fast fashion. This is where we go into a shop, buy something of low quality, wear it once or twice or only a few times, and then throw it away. And that is leading to mountains and mountains of textile waste, as you can see from the image here. Not all of it is getting disposed in Ireland. Sometimes it's being shipped abroad to other countries, particularly countries like China and places in Africa like Nigeria, and causing environmental issues over there as well. The Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, have estimated that over 10% of general waste bins in Ireland are composed of textiles, which is double the amount from 10 years ago. So this is an issue that is getting worse and worse. It's 80,000 tonnes a year going straight into landfills in Ireland. Now, as those materials are decomposing, they are causing big environmental issues, including contributing to climate change through the production of greenhouse gases. If you collect and reuse just 1 kilogram of used clothing, you're actually saving 3.6 kilograms of carbon emissions, 6,000 litres in water consumption, 0.3 kilograms in the use of fertilizers, and 0.2 in the use of pesticides in the production of the new natural resources for new clothing. So when you're thinking about something like this, you're seeing every kilogram of clothing, every single item is actually making a difference. So what you could do within your school is you could have a clothes swap. So you might need to think about COVID restrictions around that as well. Donating to charity shops, buying from charity shops as well. So all those different things are having a real solid impact. So by extending the average life of clothes by just 3 months, that can lead to a 5 to 10% reduction in carbon, water and waste footprints, and that's just by 3 months as well. So you could do clothes swaps, you could organise a big one for your school, you could organise uniform swaps as well at the start of a school. So think about real ways that your class and your school can make an impact, and you could also calculate the amount of carbon emissions that you're actually saving by reusing this clothing. So when it comes to textiles and landfill, a lot of the materials that our clothes are made from take a really long time to decompose in landfill as well. So a pair of nylon tights can take 30 to 40 years to decompose. Cotton, 2 to 6 months. Polyester, which is what a lot of our clothing is made of, 450 years. Leather and shoes is 40 years, and wool is 1 to 5 years as well. So if you'd like to calculate what clothing you're wearing today, what materials is your clothing made of, and if you were to throw it out, how much time would it take for your uniform to decompose in landfill? So there's lots of ways we can creatively reuse textiles. So these are a couple of examples, such as our raincoat made from plastic shopping bags. You could also reuse different textiles to make makeup bags. You could redesign jeans to make dresses, to make handbags. I've seen lots of amazing things happening out there. So get creative, start thinking, what different items of clothing are you throwing away, and what could you do instead of throwing them away? How could you creatively reuse, repurpose, recycle, and recreate them as well? So food is another big problem in Ireland. In Ireland, we are producing 1 million tonnes of food waste a year, and the average household is wasting 700 to 1,000 euro in food every single year that's going straight into the bin. This is things like buying packaged salad and not using it and throwing the packet of salad away. We are actually wasting that huge amount of money. Every single household is wasting that every single year. So we need to think about ideas of how we can reduce the amount of food waste. And again, it's causing big environmental problems in terms of methane production and other greenhouse gases that we're creating because of our food waste habits. So we really need to think about how we can do it. How can you do it within your school? Is it a big problem? Which I'm sure it is, lunchtime and things like that as well. So think about ways you can do it in your daily lives. How can you make an impact on this? So now you guys are going to do some team challenges. So I've sent your teacher 3 different activities that you can take part in. One of them is to make a t-shirt into a reusable tote bag that you can use for shopping. Another activity is to make a wallet from old Tetra Paks, old milk cartons. And the third activity is to examine sustainable packaging and have a look at the average lunchbox and think about ways that you can make that more sustainable as well. So I really hope you enjoyed doing the hands-on activities, and I hope you've enjoyed the workshop and gained a lot from it and learned something about sustainability and what you can do, and really reflect on how you can be more sustainable in your own life. Every single one of us has a responsibility in the way we're living our life and the impact it's having on the environment, other people, and economically as well. So really looking at things, and one small change can make a big difference in the world as well. So never think just because you're in an individual you can't do anything. You have a strong voice, you can use it, you can make changes in your own life and inspire others as well. So thank you all so much. My name is Sarah Clear, and it's been lovely doing this workshop with you today.